I'm saying, in order to do this Pariksha, Samskarana and Yugani Rupikarana, Dr. Rajmohan already mentioned it, backed up by others, that we need to make what is abstract concretes. And I came across this very interesting formula given in our old Shastras. Vishayo Vishayaschaiva Purvapakshas Tathottaram Nirnayaschedi Panjango or Siddhanto Shastradhikaranam Matam or Shastradhikaranam Matam. So what they are telling is that if you want to do a pariksha of each and every concept that is there in Ayurveda, you have to create this framework. First is take a topic. Second is Vishaya, propose your question, propose your Samshaya, which is very much like a research question today. Then give the Purva Paksha, which is something like a null hypothesis. And then propose the Uttaram, or which is very similar to what we call as an alternate hypothesis. And then, examine this and present your findings and conclusions, which is called Nirnaya. So this is the framework that has been given in our ancient Shastras, which, I am worried that this is something which we are not learning from within our Ayurvedic tradition itself. I had to go to other Shastras, experts in other Shastras to know that even we had such a system in our tradition, that every concept was taken. If you hear about, take any topic in our tradition, the first thing is you have to propose the samshayas or the questions around that topic. Then you have to convert it into Purva Paksha and Uttara Paksha. And then you have to do the investigations to decide whether you are going to accept Purva Paksha or Uttara Paksha. So this is what our Shastra. So I fully agree. This is what I think Dr. Rajmohan was also talking about, that we have to convert what is abstract into concrete, testable, hypothesis. And we have a system in our own tradition where every concept was taken and converted into something that is testable by proposing the Samshaya, the Purva Paksha, the Uttara Paksha, and then allowing people to examine facts and then arrive at a conclusion, not just believe anything beforehand. Just because the text says something, you don't have to believe. You have to break it down into this framework. And then based on facts, on your findings, you have to accept either the Purva Paksha or the Uttara Paksha. So, yeah, maybe we can have a quick discussion on this and move forward.
Hello, can I say something?
Yes, please.
Yes. So these investigation methods and knowledge creation, this is there, and the Panchavaya Vakya is also in a similar direction. So there is no Uttar Paksha or null hypothesis, alternate hypothesis kind of situation, but Pratidnya Hetu Udaharan Upanay Nigaman. So this was also a method of investigation. And recently, Dr. Kishor has invited me to speak on Ayurveda network, and there I have given a talk on Ayurveda research methodology. I would share that link with you. Yeah. And I have seen the Ayurvedic research methodology from a different perspective in that speech. And when I was studying for that, I thought it is quite interesting and many new things even I know. So I would share that that with you, and maybe then you can share with others also. But Panchavaya Vakya is also something which can be considered in the similar direction.
Yeah, Panchavaya Vakya is more like, after you have found your findings, you can present it through the Panchavaya. This was more interesting.
Talking about how to take maybe the first step.
Yes. First step is, yes.
Like what is a topic, what is research question, and then null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis. So it can be an elaboration of Pratidnya itself.
Yes, yes.
And one more thing, just like Wele Madam was mentioning about Sāṅkhya Pariksha and this. So, Madam, you might be remembering in 2006, I have presented a paper also in Update Ayurveda where we have tried to, a healthy individual as per a modern perspective, and then Ayurveda Dhatu Samya Lakshana, and where they are matching. So 100 individuals we have studied, and we have shown that there is a discrepancy. that Ayurvedic Dhatu Samya is saying that the person is not healthy, and blood tests are showing that the person is completely, his investigations are in normal range. So these kind of discrepancies are there, and that is the area where Ayurveda can contribute, or the Ayurveda concepts should be explored in such areas.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, Supriya, I have missed this information, this research which you have conducted in 2006, and that is where once again I am coming to that. Even in my book of research methodology, I have used this Panchavaya Vakya in the publication. This thing in the chapter whether what is the publication method of Ayurveda, or even for experimentation, that Drishtanta is something which is near to experiment. They give a Drishtanta, that means you can experiment and then write its conclusions. So we all are on the same page, similar thought lines. So let us like he on this slide it is like topic, research question, null hypothesis. Similarly, there is paksha siddhanta, sapaksha, apaksha, the concept of jati. So all that is coming from padartha vignan is actually the research methodology, core research methodology, which Ayurveda believes in. And Padartha Vignan or Tarka Sangraha, even prior to Padartha Vignan, Tarka Sangraha is the base, Tarka Sangraha by Annam Bhatta, of research methodology for Ayurveda. But as Dr. Rammanohar is putting forth, we need to come out with the not exactly parallels, but to certain extent parallels. I'm not sure, this is an open group discussion. So we will have to come together and put all these things in a perspective, and then and then we will have to take the further steps of taking it from there.
Thank you. Yeah, we do, it's not an idea to just reinvent everything in modern research for from traditional thing, but it's to show what is the internal view, emic view of research in our own tradition. And these are, Padartha has been so an abused subject because people have not really utilized it in a proper way. What we need to do is we need to start working in this way. I mean, do the parikshas from within the Shastric framework itself. And a lot of junk in the tradition will be eliminated in that way. I strongly think so. And then we'll be in a better position to have multidisciplinary studies with modern science, because we have a core reorganized Ayurveda, which will be in a better position to interact with modern science. That is the point that I wanted to make. Now others, Dr. Kishor, Rajmohan, Dr. Girish, Dr. Rajeshwari.
Yeah, I'm going to discuss the slide that you have presented. But
Yes.
Before that, while we are studying Indian knowledge system for a long time, is all of us, we have spent many years. What I think, the Ayurveda or Indian knowledge system, we just take structures or methods or terms, etc. More than that, this Ayurveda or IKS has approach. That approach has also to be considered or included, not just methods. For example, classification of Prameha Rugana, we discussed that lot many times, but we never discuss Rajastamobhyam Nirmukta. So this is the approach. We never discuss Krusnohi Loko Buddhimatam Acharya, etc. Yuga Nurupo Sandarbha, etc. So IKS is not just a structure or not just a standard or some secret sutras. It is an approach that also we need to take. Okay. And instead of what has been written earlier in Carakasaṃhitā or XYZ 1000 BC, what we should do at this point of time, when we are all surrounded with all modern sciences. This is very pertinent question, very actionable discussion. That is number 2. Number 3, we may not find always the parallels Hence, this approach thing is very important, Rammanoharji. If we try to fit something into something, then there will be many problems also. For example, Purva Paksha is not at all null hypothesis. Null hypothesis is a very different concept that tries to study whether two data sets are same or different. Purva Paksha is, and people again, they confuse between research hypothesis and null hypothesis. So we may not find many things parallel, and hence this discussion should also include not just what is written in the texts Acharya said, but what we should do at this point of time. So these are my very straightforward thoughts.
Thank you. That's really very good, observations, especially distinguishing between methods, structures, and approach. True. I mean, I am not also agreeing to the point that Purva Paksha is null hypothesis. That's why I just put something like, just to initiate a discussion, it's very much true that we will not find parallels. The whole idea, coming to what Dr. Girish said, I agree that the goal of this exercise is to find out what we should be doing now. But in order to arrive at such a understanding, we need to also look at the emic view.
Now, can I say something more?
Yes.
As you said, very important thing, that is Padartha Vijnana. We have not first understood. Then if you have tried to do is misuse and abuse of Padartha Vijnana, made it very uninteresting topic.
Yes.
And impractical, uninteresting, whatever. So teaching Padartha Vijnana is actually a punishment for a Samhita teacher. Okay.
Yes.
Why it happened, Rammanoharji? Because in last 300-400 years, what has been discussed in various other knowledge domains related to causality, cause-effect relationship, bias, confounders, so many things. Logic, modern logic. We ignored modern logic because there is so many things. More than Darshan Shastras, many texts contributed so many things. Not just text. Again, IKS is not only in text. IKS is in practice. IKS is in thought process. IKS is in our social structure, in our behavior. And hence, as you said, this amic view, when you take amic view, we have to again introspect, reorganize not just sources of sutras, but sources of our behavior also. And hence, if we connect Padartha Vijnana with the concepts of bias, confounders, statistics, Padartha Vijnana is not the topic that has to be connected with only with something. When we learn modern epidemiology, we find many threads of Padartha Vijnana thinking in even modern epidemiology. Causality. And if we don't discuss, for example, catalog of bias. So catalog of bias is a recent work by researchers working in University of Oxford. Catalog of bias they published that was in 2018. Now, David Sackett from Stanford, he has discussed bias in clinical research in a paper that is published in 1967. Now, this particular concept has been elaborated and now developed as a full catalog. So we have to, while we discuss Hetwabhas, while we discuss Sahacharya Niyomo Vyapti and so many things, we have to refer to this modern content because our idea is not implementing whatever written in ancient text thousands of years ago. Our idea is taking that particular approach, learning from that particular tradition, how we are going to develop futuristic research, how I'm going to shape up the thinking of researchers in Ayurveda colleges, how my clinician friends will be able to write based on all these knowledge domains. So if we think action oriented, we have to look for future, and then in retrospect we have to look back, understand at this point of time what is available. Well, I will take a very funny example. We have to treat a patient while patient is alive. It is very different than repairing a motor car, where you can you can dismantle everything and then again reassemble and start it. So this is my thinking. Sorry if I have deviated, but
No, perfectly. I mean, this is a, we want very lively and diverse discussions. Please feel free to voice your honest opinions. That's the whole idea, that we need to bring this open thinking, critical thinking in the field of Ayurveda. I'm very much trying to promote that. So, we have to disagree in so many points. Our classical textbooks were also, acharyas themselves were disagreeing with each other. And so, I mean, it's perfectly okay to voice your honest opinions. Thank you so much. And I think
it is not a matter of agreeing or disagreeing. While we make sculptures, we have to remove so many things in order to bring out such something. And hence, the discussion is what is already written or what we used to do is perfectly fine. Means we can spend 90% of time on this, but we also need to spend our time how we can develop it further. For example, based on Socrates, Plato, to whatever Nash or so many things, how we can develop our Padartha Vidyan thread in order to make it contemporary, real life, interesting and informative. Because what happens, our Padartha Vidyan teachers, they by heart all these sutras, but they fail when somebody from philosophy department starts discussing modern logic. When they quote, Roger Bacon or whosoever is the modern philosopher, Kant, so then they fall flat, because the thread which has been emerging for last 200, 300 years is completely missing. At least as Purva Paksha concept will be very relevant here. Purva Paksha, we should know the modern logic, modern causality, modern thinking. Modern thinking is not, modern word is not just only for biomedicine or bio, whatever, but what has been developed. So this particular, if we bring real life content, that will be very important to discuss Indian knowledge systems.
Right. Yeah, fully relevant. I fully agree. And I also wanted to highlight, the why we mentioned null. It's definitely the indication they are not equivalent, but to give the idea that, we also had a system of, whenever a statement is made, we always had a system of trying to refute it. Consider the possibility that it could be wrong. Then, look at an alternative explanation and then accept it only if it is factually, supported. So I think that critical thinking is something we need to really bring in. And the idea is not to talk about what people were doing in olden times. The whole idea is to see what we can implement in that, in our present day context. So this whole exercise is only to bring an emic perspective that will help us to absorb Western science in a more effective manner. So we have to still hear from Dr. Kishor and Dr. Rajmohan and Dr. Rajeshwari.
Yeah, I have got nothing much to say at this stage, actually. Yeah, what is going on in my mind is that if it is similar to whatever is there in modern science, what is there something? I mean, what is special about it? So this is my question.
That's something which I wanted to also highlight. There is a lot of similarity in methods, but one difference, you see, modern medicine, modern science is based on an approach. Like, for example, if I want to study, that is where I want to bring in towards the end of our discussion. Anyway, since you raised it, I will highlight it. This approach that the whole is the sum of its parts versus the whole is more than the sum of its parts. The way we study the human body is where the whole methods, there are a lot of similarities. They are not exact, as Dr. Girish rightly pointed out. We have to be careful about drawing complete parallels. There are differences in approach. But like, for example, now if you take a herb or a plant, today even what we are doing in our lab is break it down into its components and then identify a few components which can explain the way the whole plant acts. Now, this has very severe limitations. Now, in Ayurveda, we don't have this approach. We don't break down things to its parts, and then based on the parts, we don't define how that whole acts. So the way we study objects, we are studying more relationships, more what you can call as systemic properties. So that is where our methodologies need to be fine-tuned. How do we study a plant as a whole? How do we understand? Like if you take Savanapasha or some of our formulations, they are too complex that no modern pharmacologist or drug development person is comfortable dealing with it. They would like to reduce it to few ingredients based on which they can understand its action. So when it comes to actually how we study phenomenon, there is definitely difference. But what I have understood is that overall approach, there is not much conflict. And that is very important to understand so that, there can be a dialogue between modern scientists and, Yes.
Can I come in?
Yes.
So, taking this little clue from what Dr. Kishor said, what Dr. Girish mentioned, and the example of this reductionist approach from a plant, there are certain limitations to our logics also, which we need to acknowledge and then think how to build over that. Like this logic, yatra yatra dhumaha tatra tatra vandihi. That means wherever there is smoke, there has to be Agni. But the new reality is there is Agni, but there is no smoke. And that reality needs to be addressed. Or if we go to Dubai, this is the cold fire. So it's all fiery. You put your hand inside that and it doesn't burn you. So our thinking or our corollary, causality is whenever there is Agni, it will burn. But we also know about cold frost, cold bites, and that is the effect is similar to burning. So how are we going to bring these types of different actual real life experiences of modern day into the teachings, into the research domain of Ayurveda, and that too for the new generation coming at BAMS level after passing 12th, who learn basically the basics of physics, chemistry, biology, and even a lot of other sciences like biochemistry, agriculture sciences. They know about soil science. So the knowledge at 12th level has grown so much. Knowledge or information, whatever we want to say, it is really vast, and based on the target group that we get, these discussions we are having, they should be able to build something concrete as a policy, and then its implementation strategy to revive our textbooks or what exactly. I mean, I'm also very openly thinking, and because you have given us the open stage, Dr. Rammanohar, I can see he had to go for a while, so others can talk.
Madam,
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Please continue.
Actually, Wele madam has given some different thought, but I would like to reiterate what Dr. Girish said or what Dr. Kishor asked, that what is so special in that. But if the thought is resonating in other systems, that is strengthening the thought process of Indian knowledge. That is one thing. And second thing is we talk about many of our principles and many of our siddhantas, but we do not have practical application, or we do not use them, or we do not have a simple tool to demonstrate them. For example, Carakasaṃhitā. So it is a very basic principle, and we say like this is the main thing of Ayurveda and all. But if we see the WHO or Naranjo's causality algorithm, which are for adverse drug monitoring, they are based on Karyakaranvad, and they have illustrated the Karyakaranvad because they are called as only causality assessment. So that has given a very precise information how we can apply Karyakaranvad in day-to-day life. So if such examples are there, then why shouldn't we take the advantage? And as Dr. Girish said, that why shouldn't we go further, and how we can apply it in the day-to-day life or in our medical science practice, research, whatever we are doing. That is something which we should think about. So I think this thought process, this thought which Dr. Girish has mentioned, that is very much important.
You know, as Ashtanga Sangra Gruhad Vagpata said, Yuga Anurupo Sandarbha Vibhagena Karisha. So we should remember that what we are going to do now is we are going to develop for Gen Z, new generation altogether. And we have to do it slightly differently. And the tone should be not whatever Acharya said that was really great, but the thought process, approach, ever embracing, and like practical demonstration. Can we give some real life examples, as Supriya ji gave causality assessment, or based on Indian knowledge systems, or based on Padartha Vidyan thinking, the Karaka. So with these real life examples and presenting things very differently for new generation, that is very important. And hence in every discussion I feel experts are fine, they are important, indispensable, but we also try to involve students who are going to, you know, at receiving end, and they are going to carry something forward. What do you think, Kishor ji?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you, because ultimately it is, you know, the community of students, and you know, not only students, even the public. I think you know, all of us are stakeholders, and each, you know, involvement of each of these stakeholders is important, definitely.
So that's what my last point was, that yes, we will discuss about methods of research. We will discuss, and the first slide where Dr. Rammanohar ji started was upgradation of our textbooks also. And this we keep talking amongst ourselves, that it's a very frustrating experience for all the sincere teachers for any subject. Let it be Samhita, Padartha Vidyan, or Rasashastra, or Chikitsa, or Stri Prasuti, whichever it is. All our students do a research methodology. What do students do? That they just read whatever is required for the examination, that too in the form of, like, if the books are available in the form of guides, they are more happy. They don't even check whether it is right, wrong, what is the language, how much, whether it is good, it is incorrect, it is correct, and they just write the papers. The teachers are not ready to change the pattern of question papers and examinations. I must mention one of my colleagues from Ayurveda who dared to change the examination pattern for MD first year students, and he made it applied along with all the other components also, because how to set a question paper, there is a standard requirement. So these type of sporadic efforts are there. Some people really teach good and they feel frustrated. A few days back, me and Dr. Supriya were also talking that yes, good people, good in the sense they are well known in their own subjects and spheres as good academicians, good clinicians, but they do not, give their 100%. So that is a motivation. They still, after doing 6 or 7 workshops or such meetings or understanding, if they are not bringing themselves up, because there is no change in the, I mean, it's a vicious cycle. And we need to find out, after this discussion, we need to find out which are the breakpoints, what we are going to do with it, how we are going to involve like-minded seniors, mid-level academicians, researchers and clinicians, and the students who are interested in such kind of exercises. And to, we'll have to create a task force kind of planning, taking a target of about 2 years or so from now. And then this whole meeting, the 3 hours which are put in by all of us, will come to a fruition. That is what I feel at the moment. And
Thank you, ma'am. Rajmohan sir, could you please share?
Exactly. Here again, when we consider what is there in the slide, exactly we have compared the terms which are available in Padartha Vijnana or our Darshanas with the recent research methodology terminology. Still, there is nothing new. Because actually, what we are trying to do here in our methodological terminologies, that is in Ayurvedic terminologies, we try to equate with the present day research methodology terms used in the present day research methodology tools. That means the whole idea of inquiry, that is our whole idea of creating knowledge was actually the same at the Darshana periods, and the same thing is following nowadays also. That basically, when we talk about epidemiology is the science of disease occurrence, and it is all about causality, cause-effect relationship. We are looking at the same type of narration we can see in our darshanas also. So, what we are trying to project here? Just like we are comparing things, just like Panchavaya Vakya is all about testing a hypothesis or the reporting a hypothesis testing thing, and all those things. Actually, we remain the same stage, just like inventing what is available from the perspective of the existing modern science, modern tools or science, whatever it may be. So there is nothing new in all those things. When we talk about Hetuabhasa and we are corroborating the things of Hetuabhasa with the bias, already Girish sir demonstrated that there is a catalog of bias now available because whole lot of addition is already there. So we all know that since the James Lind experiment, it is the first, it is thought to be the first controlled clinical trial, a primitive controlled clinical trial conducted in epidemiology. But later there have been a lot of investigations into the methodology, and they have refined the methodology like anything. Now we know that almost all type of questions can be in the present scenario can be answered utilizing some of those clinical trial methods and its alternative methods available nowadays. So what are we exactly going to do? Whether we are about to connect the present day research methodology, ontology, and its epistemology to the epistemology of Ayurveda or ontology of Ayurveda, or we are actually, as Rammanohar sir was pointing, reinventing something new out of the existing research methodology or methodological approach that is explained in Ayurveda or Padartha Vijnana, whatever it may be. So that question always arises because these expedition to knowledge, the basic whole idea of expedition to knowledge that explained in the Buddhi Nirupana part of Padartha Vijnana or Tarka Sangraha, definitely, actually, we can see that the same approach is there in the present day logic of modern research methodology tools, methodology tools. So that is the point I have to raise here. I don't have that much of clarity what we are planning to do. That's it from my side.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Rajmohan. Yes, see, the idea is, I know that in these discussions, we are liable to get, distracted into trying. Some of the tendencies, as was pointed out, is to rediscover modern scientific methods in ancient sciences, and giving a narrative that seems to make ancient thought process very similar to modern science. That is a trap. That is definitely not what we are trying to do here. The whole idea is that, when we are using modern research methods, we have taken extreme positions. Like on one hand, we have put Ayurveda as something which is not amenable to any modern kind of research, or on the other hand, the other extreme is that we have to use all these modern methodologies to actually make Ayurveda valid or scientific. What we are proposing here is that through a process of re-examination, where we are really going to look at convergences and divergences between traditional approaches to knowledge creation and modern approaches to knowledge creation, so that we don't lose one system while we are trying to, use modern methods. We don't want to miss out certain unique approaches or perspectives that Dr. Girish was talking about. So it's very, very important we understand what was research in ancient times and what is research today. I see. What we are trying to look at is in spirit, they seem to be very similar. That is the only thing that this comparison is helping us to know. Both were looking at truth finding. There was this element of self-criticism. There was this element of, re-examining, discarding what is not, correct, or that there is similarity. But when it comes to actual details of the methodologies involved, Ayurveda is more an experiential. What I have understood, more than being experimental, it is more experiential. Like, for example, we have anumāna. We have anumāna, pratyakṣa purvam trividam trigalam chanumiyate. When it comes to modern science, it will be an experimental research on the basis of which they arrive at these associations or correlations. You need an n number of people, observations. But in our tradition, pratyakṣa anumanam, they have not given those conditions. They have not talked about the population in which it should be studied. It is an inferential understanding that has come from experience. So generally, we can say that our systems, I have been trying very hard to find if we have any parallel for experiment in our tradition. While all these methodologies are used, there is no very clear evidence that experiments were conducted. It was more experiential knowledge, whereas modern science is more experimental. So there, Ayurveda is more like, from real world. Today we are talking about real world clinical practice research. Ayurvedic approach is more, that kind of an ecosystem rather than a very interventional experimental system. So it's very important that while we see some similarities, I believe it's very important to know the differences so that, when we are adapting modern methods, we'll be in a better position to know what is more suitable to us, where we should make those changes and adaptations. Because certain concepts are understood only in an experiential way in Ayurveda, not in an experimental way. So we have to bring that experiential element. Today, there are discussions on qualitative research, mixed methods. All these things may need to be looked into very carefully. So the whole idea is only to make sure that while we are using modern methodologies, they are used in a very sensitive way. We understand the context in which we have to use it and then use appropriate methods. That's the only idea of this whole exercise.
Yeah, exactly. So the last sentence you have made makes a whole lot of idea and throw light into what exactly we have to do. So careful utilization of the existing methods so that the concepts or the theoretical framework of Ayurveda is not harmed during the exercise. So that is the real thing we have to do. See, when we are looking into the history of the modern research methodology, we clearly know that there was not much statistical tools or mathematical tools were adopted in the earlier times. There were not much description regarding how an experiment exactly should be done. So that kind of experimental methods were not there in the modern epidemiology, clinical epidemiology during the 12th or 13th century itself. It all came after lot of experiments and all those things, and a lot of addition in that area also, researching into the methodologies also, how to conduct a proper experiment that was also in epidemiology. That was also a part of a rigorous research. So it's quite natural that in our textbooks also there may not be that kind of references or that kind of utilization of mathematical tools. That is actually the change happened in the methodological part, that utilizing mathematical tools in research in epidemiology and in biological sciences have changed a lot of things exactly in the creation of knowledge. So it came much more scalable, much more measurable. That kind of approach changed the whole perspective of epidemiology itself. So I think apart from all these things, how we can utilize the present day methodologies and statistical tools effectively without hampering the whole idea of Ayurveda, that is the practice of Ayurveda, the science and practice of Ayurveda, may be a better platform for discussion, I feel.
Yes. Actually, we are doing a series of discussions like this. This is only the first discussion to create a background for such a deeper exercise. This is because we want everybody to be on the same page before we go into a detailed discussion. And I believe that all of us, we talk about, the tradition, but we need to re-examine what is there in our tradition also first. Create the stage before we move forward. I have also, just to add to what Dr. Rajmohan said, I found this distinction made in Carakasaṃhitā between chance effect and real effect. In fact, even terms for that like Yadrichiki Siddhi, Yadricha Siddhi and Pratinimiki Siddhi, very fascinating. But as you rightly pointed out, they did not have a statistical means to distinguish between chance effect and real effect. It was purely experiential. They did not have a mathematical formula on the basis of which they could, analyze data and say this is chance effect or a real effect. But that concept was there, which itself is very interesting.
So that is also very crucial, Ramji, because when we are talking about the adoption of the present day experimental methodologies into Ayurveda, definitely all these literature probably would support that. Ayurveda also in the same pace, that they were also thinking in the same direction, that all these things should be properly examined through thorough experimentation. So that is the thing. I think the key element in the advancement of epidemiology is nothing but the utilization of mathematical theorems and proper adoption of mathematical techniques and tools into epidemiology and of course research. So that gave a whole lot of idea in or improved the external validity of studies. So that is the core thing. So we have to create tools that can be testable. We have to generate tools without hampering, of course, the fundamental principles. So that development of tools and testable tools, which can actually measure the change, whether it is health in terms of health or disease, that is more crucial than creating a methodology that is only suitable to Ayurveda. So I think that maybe the development of proper tools may be much more important. I feel.
That is true. But those are all at a later. See, what we are talking about here is re-examining even our texts, re-examining our traditions on the basis of a framework that is there in our text itself, so that we have a curated knowledge, which then we can see. Many of the things in Ayurvedic texts have become outdated, frankly, because the Vyavahara part, many of those things are not relevant today. So we are still, when we talk of Carakasaṃhitā, we are looking at it as sacrosanct and nothing to be removed from it. I don't think it is true. We need to do an internal exercise. This is the core of Ayurveda that after a self-examination we have brought up. Now let this curated knowledge, let us link that with modern science and then bring up something that is really relevant and useful today. So there are two steps, as I understand. One is, the real using with modern tools and, doing that whole exercise, development of tools. The other one is the more fundamental thing that we need to do is to do this preliminary exercise, and that's what I want to share in the next slides.